district, will be. I'll try to be real quick because especially at the end, you don't want me to go long. Why I'm here, as Ellen mentioned, the redistricting has moved my district from what was before Somersworth, Rochester, Barrington, Madbury, Nottingham, Somersworth and Madbury being about 15 to 20% lean Democrat. I'm not brokenhearted about losing those that city and that town. Barrington and Nottingham Barrington I could hold my own in. I lived there for a number of years and have a lot of friends and family there. And Nottingham is a good town as well, but I'm loving coming this way. What I stand for, I'm a conservative. I'm a constitutional conservative, fiscal conservative, social conservative. I support the Republican platform. In fact, I enthusiastically support our New Hampshire Republican platform. I think it's great on all aspects of it. I'll get into one detail of a policy issue that I've been supporting and comment on one other, but very briefly. But first I want to tell you who I am. My wife and I came here to New Hampshire in 1977. Lived in Stratford County for all but 2 years since then, so a total of 33 years. Lived in Rochester for about 19 years. Been married for 42 years. Have 7 children, and they're all growing. My youngest daughter is in college, and by the way, my youngest daughter was my campaign manager in the 2010 campaign, and my daughter-in-law, married to my youngest son, was my campaign manager in my 2008 campaign. My youngest daughter, and this is just a little aside, she's a political science major at Cedarville University in Cedarville, Ohio, and she is the only person in her program that ran a successful state senate campaign at her college. So at any rate, I also have 10 grandchildren, 7 of whom live in the area. So I really do my part in the proliferation of Republican ideas. Also a small businessman. Been a small businessman for a little over 40 years, owned our own business for the last 11 years. We have a construction company, very creatively called Groen Builders. We do residential and commercial construction. We just built a home in Alton this past year, finished it up on December 23rd, up on the mountain overlooking, a little bit overlooking the lake, mainly overlooking the valley and the mountains. We enjoy building. I truly enjoy what I do. It's the job I enjoy the most of anything I've ever had. But it's just given me a lot of experience that I take to the New Hampshire Senate. And I started saying we because when we met as freshmen the first time after the election in 2010, we realized that of the newcomers, of the newbies we called ourselves, 7 of the 9 of us signed paychecks on the front side. And that brings a lot of business experience to the state senate, and I think that's helped us in balancing a budget along with the House, with the efforts of the House, balancing a budget, 11% cut in the budget, etc. So I love that. I love business. I love numbers. That got me involved in the pension reform. I was very involved in that process. Really have spent a lot of time looking at the numbers of that, and right now I'm the prime sponsor of a bill to change our New Hampshire public retirement system from a defined benefit plan to defined contribution, which I believe would dramatically improve our state pension system. And actually it wouldn't be a state pension system anymore, it would be an individual defined contribution plan, which would be far superior to what we have. So just briefly, I want to touch on one interesting little bill. It's a combination of a bill and a Senate concurrent resolution that I think illustrates what I stand for. It's SCR 1, Senate Concurrent Resolution 1, and it's called the Madison Amendment. And if you're familiar with the 10th Amendment, which really establishes that the government, the federal government, has limited enumerated rights, and all other rights belong to the states and to the people respectively. Okay? It is essential to the balance of power in our nation. Even more so When we think of balance of power, you know, I remember when I took it in civics in grade school and high school, they talked about the balance of power as being between the branches of government, the executive, the judicial, and the legislative. But even more so, the balance of power should be between the federal and the state and the people. That's where the balance should be. So, how do we get back there? Because we've gone a long way awry on that. Our federal government has encroached more and more, gotten more and more power at the expense of the state, and definitely at the expense of the people. This little bill that we have that's called the Consumer Compulsion and Unaffordable Care Act, on the federal level, we call it Obamacare. I cannot bring myself to say Affordable Care Act. It's just not consistent with that. But we look at things like that, and it takes states' rights away, it takes federal rights away, and it's just the tip of the iceberg of what's been happening. So, what is the Madison Amendment? It's a movement that was started at ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council, and it's a movement to pass an amendment to fix a powerful states' rights weapon in our Constitution, that because that powerful weapon has a hair trigger, has never been used. And what that is in Article 5 of our federal Constitution, we have a provision that state legislatures can begin the process to amend the U.S. Constitution. Been there ever since our Constitution was ratified, but it's never been used. Why? Because the process, it requires 2/3 of the states to call a constitutional convention. And the fear always has been that if we call that constitutional amendment a convention, it's open to deal with anything in the Constitution. We could have a runaway convention, we could repeal that convention, could propose to repeal the Bill of Rights. It could propose to repeal our Constitution. It could do anything. So the fear of that runaway convention means that the states have left the most powerful weapon they have to balance their rights with the federal government. They've left it in the gun case. And we need to fix that process. So what the Madison Amendment is, it's a simple amendment that says that the states can now propose an amendment to a constitutional convention, and that only that exactly identically worded amendment from the required 34 states would be considered at that convention. It would basically fix the hair trigger on our weapon so that we can use it. Now, the question is, you call a convention, how do you prevent that convention from being a runaway convention? You know, in proposing this amendment. The way we're proposing to do that is that we pass not only the resolution asking for the convention, but we also pass a law that says any New Hampshire delegate to that convention, if they vote on anything other than the Madison Amendment, then this one sentence specifically worded amendment, if they vote on anything other than that, they immediately cease to be a delegate, their vote is invalid, the Secretary of State will immediately replace that person with an alternate, they will lose all rights to do any licensed business in New Hampshire. So for example, if we send a lawyer, they can't be a lawyer in New Hampshire anymore. If we send a doctor, they couldn't be a doctor in New Hampshire. If we send a nurse, they can't be a nurse in New Hampshire. And we have 110 licensed positions. So there's, you know, anything of that. Furthermore, they would have to take an oath that they're only going to vote on that, and we have a criminal penalty for breaking an oath. These things.
Croc TV.